Kind of pan the room a little bit as we go. All right. I'm gonna try to hop on my phone when we go out there.
Are you on?
I'm on.
Sir, thank you. I think we will be set. You think you're set, 20?
Yeah, I'm on. So
I can release IT.
I believe so.
Let's
Yeah.
just wait until you're 100% sure.
All right. Here.
How you doing, Jerry?
Welcome to our first Capital Chapter meeting. First, I'd like to thank Rick Johnson for hosting the meeting and giving you all a chance to check out the electric bus. And at the end, after lunch, we want to take it for a ride around the block or around the parking lot. He's offering to let everybody drive it. There should be one up on a lift for you to see underneath. We want to thank Grim for offering up these buses for you to all check out firsthand. As a reminder, please make sure you get your membership forms in. I'm creating a new email group for this year's membership. I experienced over the summer, heard from a lot of people at the conference that the emails may not have been right. So I just want to make sure I had everybody's accurate emails. So if you could get me those forms or get those forms into Brian, that would be great. November 17th is our next meeting. It will be at the Albany Shaker Road Firehouse in Louderville.
Yeah, it's on Albany Shaker Road. Yep.
Albany Shaker Road. That's going to be hosted by New York Bus Sales and Gerardin. They want to talk to you about their new product product line, Gerardin Energy. So Bill Lyons here will be presenting at that meeting next week or next month. This month we're hosted by Mathews Bus, And we have Mark Hanrahan here to give a presentation this morning. Welcome, Mark. Did I say the last name right?
Yeah, spot on.
Well, no. I know about it. Okay, maybe 30, 45 minutes. Okay. Before we go outside. I was, however you want to go outside first. You guys, I don't know if you guys listen.
All right. Good morning, everybody. I see a lot of familiar faces, but some are not familiar to me. Mark Hanrahan with Mathews Buses. I'm the director of EV sales with Mathews, formerly a sales rep that covered this capital district for about 18 years. So I see some of the I don't want to say old guard, but the previous guard that I worked with. So it's nice to see some familiar and some new faces. So we have really probably in this room, the most experienced group of folks that have actually been involved with purchasing and deploying electric buses as well as training. So I just want to go around the room and introduce the folks here from Mathews Buses. Right in the back, we've got Roger Heron and Henry Brett Schneider. There are trainers. Henry and Roger travel around the state and provide HV1, HV2, and at some point providing HV3 training. And what that is training for drivers, training for technicians, and we also offer public safety training for law enforcement, first responders. And in fact, we had a meeting here a month or so, 2 months ago maybe. Probably had 100 first responders here, fire department, law enforcement, just to bring them up to speed with the components of the bus that are important for them to be aware of. So next to Henry over here is Sean Lola. He's our service manager here in Ballston Spa, up in Ballston Spa. Been very active working with John Hazelton over here, head technician at Downtown Central. These guys know each other pretty well these days. We've got 5 EVs here, 4 at the moment, 1 with it's here, yeah. Not really electrically related, it's a vibration issue. But so John works really close with Sean. And then also in the back, we've got Petra Stone, the sales rep here in the Capital District. Most of you met. Dean August, our director of parts, AKA serve parts a lot, or when it comes to stuff like squishy buses, he's known as the Dean of, what is this? Swag, yes. Sir Swag a lot. So also I see Dave Christopher, the director for NIAPS here. So we've got a lot of very knowledgeable people in the room. Karim Johnson, obviously the director here. Karim and I worked quite a bit hand in hand working through the NYSERDA truck voucher program to get Bethlehem approved. So they got the funding for the 5 buses. That incentive funding was key. And did I miss anybody? And I think that those are the main players. So what I wanted to do, because we are going to be going out to the bus, and probably also I want to just assume that everybody in the room is knows the timeline that the state has set for. So there's probably nobody here that hasn't heard of 2027 or 35. Everybody knows, right? So it's out there a ways, but just remember that if you're going to take delivery in the 27-28 budget year, you have to order those buses in 26. Now that starts to get a little bit closer. We're almost into 23, so it's coming, and it is coming. And I think everybody in the room knows what's going on politically in the state of New York. But for the sake of being prepared, the genie's out of the bottle. Electric buses are real. They work, and they're not going away. So we have the most aggressive timeline in the state of New York right now, or the entire country. Other states surely will follow, but right now we're the ones that are in the spotlight And because of that, we have been seeing a lot of new faces in town. Let me put it that way. So there's a lot of consultants. There's a lot of different advocacy groups. There's people pouring into New York right now that want to be part of this program. We've got a representative here, and probably nobody knows the lines over there. Is there anybody here from Leonard Bus Sales? Oh, okay, all right. How you doing? Good. So the reason I'm pointing these guys out along with us is we have been your long time partners, and we're the ones that have the most experience in the state as far as bus distribution, how the procurement processes go. A lot of the third party people that are coming into the state really don't understand how the ordering goes, state contract, and so on and so forth. So the bus distributors, just to put a plug in for all of us, is we still are your first point of contact for information. And we can be a conduit to help you have conversations with utility companies, even, electrical architects, contractors, and funding sources. And so we have been longtime partners with all the districts in the room and around the state. We want to just make sure that everybody's aware that we're here to answer questions and help. So there's a lot of people involved in this process. I know there's one gentleman here from North County with facilities. Is there any other facilities folks in the room?
Mark, would it help if we go around the room and do introductions? I did miss that part before.
You guys normally do that in your meetings?
Not every meeting, but since it's a kickoff, why don't we start and then everybody
let's
will
do
be able to know who's here.
Yeah.
So,
And
I'm
you
sorry,
are-
I was a little bit nervous starting the first meeting. So I'm Jerry, I'm from Gilderland Central School District. I am your new president for the chapter for this school year. I was your vice president for the last 2 years, working under Belinda. So, like I said, I'm from Gilderland, so I'll introduce Amy. So Amy is our secretary.
Brian Sim, South County, I'm the treasurer now.
Sunny, South County Schools.
Christopher Naya. Rich Strasburg, Suffolk Falls.
Wait,
Aiken, Music Valley. Rio, Music Valley. Shirley Branch, Music Valley.
Annie Ireland, Greenwich, Katie Potts, Morrisville.
The Lions trusted your bus sale for Mark.
Joe Wilbur, Sound. Jim Burmaster, Music Valley.
Town, North Colony. Sandra Morrison, Bethlehem Central.
Bram Johnson, Bethlehem Central.
Dean August from Mathews Bus Parts.
Petra Stone, Matthews Bus.
Claudine Beck, Bergen, North Colony.
Todd Boyd's all Bethlehem Central.
Roger Garrett, Matthews. Edward Brickner, Matthews. John Lola, Matthews Buses.
Well, welcome, everybody. I'm so glad you could all attend. We do have some people, I think I saw Chuck on there we have some people that weren't able to make it here, but we do have more members on online right now. So now we all kind of know each other.
cool, great, thanks, Jerry, appreciate that. So I know a lot of folks came to this meeting today to see the buses. The buses out there are kind of the star of the show. I do have a presentation. It shouldn't take more than about 4 hours.
3.5, I think.
3.5.
Every time
Jerry,
it
you
says
okay
that.
with that?
Yep.
And nobody's got to get back to drive, right? So,
Yeah, some of us did.
Yeah, so we probably collectively have all sat through plenty of did anybody apply for EPA? Clean school bus applicants? Or not? Anybody else? Salem?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. How many did you apply for?
2.
Yeah, and Graham, 25, right? Yeah, and right down the road, Greenville, 25. So, I just want to touch on that funding real quick because honestly, most of the districts that we work with around the state are most likely not going to be ordering buses without some sort of incentive funding. Bethlehem Central, first district in the state that actually ordered, voters approved a bus without incentive funding. Only district we know of in the state has it right now. And by the way, does anybody in the room have any idea how many electric buses north of the New York City area there are in New York State right now? There's 8. Okay, so we in 2035 it's got to be somewhere around 45,000. You guys better kick going. And so, without getting into how that's going to work, I just I wanted everybody to understand that the funding is an integral part of this. We all know infrastructure is too. We've heard a lot about talking to utility companies, but the funding usually is what, once there's funding available, or thinking of a good shot at the funding, really nothing else is moving forward at this point. You can gather information. This is the first step. Everybody asks, what's the first step? Coming to these meetings is the first step, and getting to see the bus is another step. The administrations have mixed feelings about the timelines. Some are, let's go after it, let's dip our toe in the water, let's go all in, let's not do anything, this is never going to happen. And it's from one side to the other, it's all over the place. So, but it's good to know how the funding works, and I will touch on that briefly. I'll briefly touch on infrastructure and training. And then I'm going to show a short video. It's like being in school. The best part was the movie. So the video is going to kind of set up going out and looking at the buses. So the video is a driver training video. When you get on walk up to an electric bus, at first glance, it doesn't look much different. But if you know what to look for, there's a lot of things that are different. So this video is going to kind of familiarize yourself or provide you with a little orientation of what you're looking at when you get out there. So funding, 2 sources right now outside of your local taxpayers. Federal funding through the EPA program, the school bus program, funded by the infrastructure bill, $5 billion. This year, roughly $500 million is going towards electric. They've doubled that. So it's going to be close to $1 billion this coming year. There's a priority list for applicants. You can apply whether you're on that priority list or not. So they prioritize by rural, poverty level, and tribal. And so you have an opportunity, everybody has an opportunity to apply. You can apply this year, the application deadline ended on August 19th. The awards are coming out maybe by tomorrow, most likely going to be next week. We have no idea who's going to get awarded, but we do know that in New York, there's roughly 2,000 applicants. New York State, we believe, talking to some of the other distributors, that if everybody were to get awarded, we're going to see an influx of 400 to 500 electric buses into New York State. So no matter what the state of mind is right now for each district as far as when to do what, that is probably going to act as a catalyst should there be even a portion of those districts get awarded. What's going to happen is it's going to be very public. It's going to be announced when these winners get selected to get the money for electric buses. That is going to probably act as a catalyst in other districts to look and make it move forward a little quicker. Or we don't have any yet. We don't know. They said at least one per state. So that is funded again by the infrastructure bill money. The recent Inflation Reduction Act may inject some money into federal funding as well. That remains to be seen. The other is the state funding. Right now, we have the NYSERDA truck voucher money available, funded by the VW settlement fund, overseen by the VW settlement fund, and all the language in that was written by attorneys. Not easy to get because there's two requirements. You got to know this already. You have to have a bus with a 2009 or older engine. If you don't own one, you can buy one. Then you also have to have the electric buses have to drive through the DAC zones, which Bethlehem qualified for 5, Gates qualified for 2, they applied for 3 more. We don't know when the funds are going to run out, but right now, those are the 2 funding sources that we have. There's an Environmental Bond Act that we're all voting on next month in New York State. Should it pass, that's going to inject another $500 million into the NYSERDA coffers, and for that, and then they will decide how that money is going to be taken out. So that's on the funding side. On the infrastructure side, obviously, you have to get from the grid to the bus. Infrastructure is charging and site development. But before you can figure any of that out, what you need to do, you need to do route assessing and charge analysis. You need to know what your route consumption is going to be for every bus that you've got. So bus distributors can help you with that. We do a comprehensive study. We take a look at your fleet, the mileage, the time the bus leaves in the morning, when it gets back, what the afternoon charge is, what is going to be required for the afternoon charge, and then we compile all that information. We look at some operational cost savings, and then that information is given to you, so then you can contact your utility company and say, this is what we think our buses are going to need from the grid. Super important, because you can't really go beyond that until you know that. I've seen some studies by some of the utility companies. They're very vague and ambiguous. There's a lot of variables, and they will tell you that this is only an assessment. Your demand could change, but based on what their assessment is, they're going to say, we do or do not have low capacity in our area. If they don't have the low capacity in the area, your power authority has to figure out how to get it to your area. So that we're just now talking from the grid to a transformer or meter on that end of things. So that gets you part of the way to the bus. From the bus out to the meter is on the district. And that's why facilities is critical. And as time goes on, here over the next couple of years, the facilities folks, who played a big role in deploying these buses in Bethlehem, they are an integral part because first off, one of the very first things that you should do is look to your facilities folks, ask them, what is our available service? There's no point in applying for 5 buses if you can't charge them. So if you have existing service, which they did in Bethlehem for 5 buses, they were able to buy wall chargers and charge their buses. Gates didn't have that. They had enough for 2. It probably, a lot of the districts that I've talked to really don't know what they've got available. So that's important to know. You don't want to put in a grant for a grant or rebate and not having to charge buses. If you don't have enough existing service, say you have existing service for 2, if you want to buy 3, now you've got to add service. That's where your power authority comes in, and that's when you're going to start spending some money. So there is some state money available. There's some federal money available, but that's as far deep as I'm going to go on that end. Then there's chargers. There's what we in the bus business are calling level 2 DC chargers, and then there's DC fast chargers. And when we do our route analysis, we know what kind of charger you'll need for that bus. It doesn't mean that you wouldn't put in DC fast chargers for every bus, but at least would be able to look and know how many level 2 or level 3 chargers you would have to have for your routes. And everybody in this room knows in transportation that I believe everybody that you create a route and then everything comes after that, right? Your driver and the bus and everything else. With this program, really the infrastructure and charging side of this thing has to come first. And then, obviously the funding and then the infrastructure, charging, and then the bus. So right now, our lead time on electric buses is around 10 months. So what we do when we build a bus at the factory, they test drive it for 400 miles before they ship it up here. The first 5 were deployed here in upstate New York, 2 in Gates, and not without an issue or two. Expect downtime with electric buses. Maybe a little, maybe a lot, hopefully none. But those are things that you have to expect too. There's some of the bumps in the road that we ran into were just not knowing how the bus operated. Brakes are a little different. There's some differences right up to electrical issues and then a vibration. So just like any other bus, whether it's gas, diesel, propane, natural gas, things can break. So what's important to know is if they break, you've got support. So we have obviously trainers, we've got our service, and so do the other distributors. So they can't, if they break, they get fixed. They can get fixed. So just like anything else. As far as driving the bus, this video I'm going to show will give you kind of an idea how all the differences, what the differences are. So I want to show that real quick, and then I want to open it up to questions because again, we have Karim and John Hazelton, both from Bethlehem, who have gone from stem to stern through this process. Working with Karim, getting the buses in, having the chargers hooked up, and having the buses out there on the road. So without further ado, I want to show this video. And afterwards, if you have any questions about the video, please feel free to open it up and ask away. So let's see if I can fix.
I don't know, maybe the can you shut down first? I was wishing I could.
Is it our sound or your sound?
So yeah, you can't hear them. They're super quiet. Well, that's one thing that's great about it.
What you need to know to operate.
We didn't everybody hear it.
With green renewable energy becoming increasingly vital to our planet, Thomas Built Buses is driving the industry forward with its all-electric Joule. Powered by Proterra, the industry's leading battery manufacturer, the Joule can hold up to 226 kilowatts of power, and it comes with a standard 8-year battery warranty. The Joule can be charged in less than 3.5 hours with a 60 kilowatt DC fast charger, and it boasts a range of up to 138 miles on a single charge, thanks to its industry-leading battery design, which includes a highly efficient 2-speed Eaton transmission. The Joule features a regenerative power system. And this system can be set to standard regenerative mode or high regenerative mode, both of which capture unused kinetic energy and return it to the batteries, maximizing the Joule's range. Now, let's take a quick look at how the Joule operates emissions-free. The Joule batteries send out direct current, or DC, electrical energy. This reaches the AC-DC inverter, which converts the energy into alternating current. This AC energy reaches the electric motor, which propels the vehicle. The transmission is coupled to a small drive shaft, which is connected to the rear axle differential. The motor and transmission turn the drive shaft, which turns the gearing in the rear axle. This delivers energy to the wheels, which rotate, resulting in the bus moving forward or in reverse. The low voltage system of the Julie is what engages and controls the high voltage system. The low voltage system must maintain an adequate voltage level, and this is protected by the gigavac switch. We'll get into that later. Battery storage and other major components on the chassis are powered by high voltage electricity. In fact, the Julie has a 400-volt system, which is far higher than the typical household outlet's 120 volts. Special high voltage cables, which are easily identified by their orange insulation for safety, distribute energy to other high voltage components. The Julie has a high voltage interlock loop, HVIL system, which monitors all the connections between high voltage components. If a component gets disconnected, the bus will notify the driver by displaying a message on the dashboard. So, now that we've gone over the basics, I'll walk you through what to expect when switching from a diesel bus to the Julie. You'll notice a few differences in your pre-trip inspection. First, there's no tailpipe. Under the hood, there are two separate coolant reservoirs. This one is for the batteries, and this one here is for the bus interior. Also, you can see a radiator is still present in the Julie. You'll find other inspection items under the hood similar to a diesel bus. The steering column and gearbox are the same. Visual inspection for hoses and the front axle remains a requirement. And we recommend following the Federal Highway Administration's guide to pre-trip inspections. And of course, you have a charging port instead of a fuel port. But we'll go over the details of the charging process later. Let's go over what happens when you start the Julie. When you turn the key to run, all the components of the Julie will activate. But when you turn the key to start, the Julie will be engaged. And like with any electric vehicle, there's no engine noise at all. You can tell the Julie is on when you see this green vehicle light with a forward and reverse arrow on the dashboard. You may also hear a low humming noise. This is just the air compressor and nothing to worry about. At this point, the Julie is on and ready to go. Your parking brake is still set and the transmission is on neutral. The parking brake is controlled by the IntelliPark switch from Bendix. This comes standard on all Julie buses, and it makes it easier for you to set and release the parking brake throughout your day. The IntelliPark switch sets the transmission to neutral when you activate it, which prevents the redundancy of pulling and pushing on a standard air brake PP1 valve. In order to deactivate the parking brake, you must have your foot on the service brake. Then simply push the IntelliPark switch like this to turn it off. You'll hear a rush of pressurized air. This is your brake pump coming on. Simply press the button for the gear you want to activate. When you select a gear from neutral, you'll hear the transmission shift like this. This is normal, and what you're hearing is the pneumatic shifter controlling the transmission. The power steering motor will also turn on, and the ADA chimes will sound outside at the front and the rear. When the lights of this switch are off, this indicates the parking brake is on. And make sure this is the case before switching gears. When you remove your foot from the service brake, you'll hear a rapid rhythmic sound. Nothing to worry about here. This is the Hill Start Assist HSA feature, which prevents the Julie from rolling forward or backward. And once you use the accelerator pedal, the HSA will release and the bus can move. There is technically not a reverse gear. The motor simply turns the other way when you switch to reverse. Also, reverse is limited to 8 miles per hour in the Julie. While driving, regenerative power mode activates when you take your foot off the accelerator pedal. This is when the energy of the motors is redirected to charging the battery. Now, if you keep your foot off the accelerator, the bus will eventually come to a stop. After 30 seconds of being stopped in this way, the anti-rollaway feature will activate. This automatically sets the transmission to neutral and activates the parking brake. You'll notice the red LEDs of the IntelliPark switch are flashing. This is because it was activated automatically as a result of the anti-rollaway mechanism. Now, this is important. In this situation, you can't simply release the parking brake by pressing the switch the way that you normally would. You need to manually set the parking brake by pulling the switch, causing the red LEDs to glow continuously. And then you can deactivate the parking brake by putting your foot on the service brake and pressing the IntelliPark switch. Julie's factory configuration activates the rear brake lights when the driver reduces their accelerator input. A customer may turn off this feature by contacting their local dealership. To park the Julie, simply slow to a stop the way you normally would with the service brake. Set the bus to neutral, and then activate the parking brake by pulling the IntelliPark switch. Then you can turn off the Julie. The IntelliPark switch LEDs will glow continuously for 5 minutes after the Julie is turned off. Now, let's go over the charging process for the Julie. First, inspect the charge head, making sure nothing is dirty or broken. Open the charge port door, then lift the charge port cover and plug in the charger. You should hear a click when you plug it in, and the green light next to the charging panel will start blinking rapidly. This means the charging station and the Julie are communicating. Inside on the dashboard, you'll see a yellow charging indicator light come on. You'll also notice on the IntelliPark switch that the top LED is shining continuously, while the bottom LED is blinking. After about 30 seconds, the green light next to the charging panel will blink slower. This means the Julie is being actively charged. Inside, a blinking green high voltage indicator light can be seen on the dashboard. This shows that the high voltage system is active. You can run accessories such as heating or cooling while the Julie is being charged, but of course, the drivetrain is disabled during charging. You'll also notice that both the LEDs on the IntelliPark switch are shining continuously. Eventually, the green light next to the charging panel will glow continuously green. This indicates the Julie is fully charged. Now, in order to disconnect the charger, press this red button to the left of the charge head and wait a few seconds. The green light will stop shining and the red light will shine continuously. Then you can hold the release trigger on the charge head and unplug it from the bus. When this happens, the yellow charging indicator light will turn off in the dashboard. If you're charging with the key set to off, nothing else will be illuminated on the dashboard. If you're charging with the key set to run, you will still see the green high voltage indicator light, even when the charging stops. Check the operating manual of your charger before charging. You should be familiar with your charger features and have completed your charger training course. As a reminder, while you are charging, you cannot put the bus in gear and you cannot disable the parking brake. And now remember, the Julie has both a high voltage system and a low voltage system. The low voltage system operates all the controls and safety features of the bus, and it communicates with the high voltage system to start the bus. And this is why the Julie is equipped with a gigavac switch. If the low voltage system were to ever drop below 11 volts of power for 60 seconds, the gigavac switch would open its circuit, acting as a kill switch that protects the batteries. The gigavac switch reconnects the low and high voltage systems if they're ever disconnected due to a drop in voltage levels. This is one of many ways in which the Julie is designed with safety and performance in mind. Let's go over a few scenarios that could be confusing when first encountered, but really have simple solutions. While driving, if your state of charge is above 95%, when you remove your foot from the accelerator pedal, you'll hear a chime sound from the dashboard, and you'll see a message reading regenerative braking limited. And nothing to worry about here. Regenerative braking is limited to prevent the batteries from being overcharged. Once your state of charge goes below 95%, regenerative braking will resume at its full capacity. Check your charger for proper operation prior to the charging session. Depending on your charger, It may have lights or a display screen that could indicate fault codes. These may prevent your charger from proper operation and charging. Check the LV battery disconnect switch to make sure it is in the on position. The Julie bus requires a proper level of voltage in the low voltage batteries. If you plug a charger into the bus and the lights next to the charging head glow red instead of blinking green, this might be because the charging head is not connected properly or an error has occurred. Simply unplug the charging head, wait 5 minutes, then reconnect it, making sure you hear a click. Then everything should start charging normally. The Julie has a safety design in which it locks the charge plug and port during a charge, which prevents disconnection during charging. If you ever find that your charger will not release from the charging port after a completed charge, contact your local dealer for instructions on how to unlock it. They will provide you with instructions on using a manual disconnect lever. Another note, if you turn on the Julie while it's still plugged into a charger, there will be a yellow charging indicator on the dashboard to remind you you're still plugged in. If this is the case, you won't be able to put the Julie in gear or release the parking brake until you've unplugged the charger.
Yeah.
Now that you're familiar with the Julie and its various features, you're ready to hit the road in a whole new way. At Thomas Built Buses, we know that every mile matters. And with the all-electric Julie, our miles are greener, safer, and more promising than ever.
Good thing they can't start up and go because I'm driving away the new
So, we have food coming at 11:15. So, we can, area, go outside and come back and eat or.
Yeah,
Yes.
we can do that. Well, real quick, I wanted to have Keith and Brent just give a quick update on legislation.
Get out of the way. Here anyways.
So not that everybody can tell, I don't like those. So we'll try this again. Welcome to the Bethlehem Central School District. Glad that you come part of this presentation. We have legislative update. Promise not to be long. We're not in between the Julie and food. First part, we discussed the legislative priorities during the meeting. We had a couple of updates. We had a couple of updates with the legislative priorities. They were discussed and it passed and was forwarded into the document. I believe the document has been voted on by the entire board, so that is available on the NIAP website. We did discuss the under the hood waiver that is currently being evaluated at FMCSA. NIAP did submit a letter to support that waiver. And we also discussed the doing subcommittees in our legislative committee to discuss electric buses, which was a surprise on that committee. And civil service portability, which is another issue that to our members. found holes beyond this. And fourth, we had a very interesting discussion discussing the bus driver shortage and what, as a state association, can be done, and specifically in our committee, what could we do? Shortage by suggesting. Once again, it was a very interesting discussion. We have one idea across the board. Looking forward to continuing that discussion. That is it for the legislative update.
David Christopher, is there anything you'd like to add? Probably said I'm not putting you on the spot. I know we weren't prepared. I
Go
didn't-
on, but you missed lunch.
But David heads up our board of directors meetings that take place every quarter. And so I just, anything else that we missed?
A couple things, the legislative piece, certainly the electric bus is upon us, not what we pay for. So we are advocating hard for money to pay for this. We feel full reimbursement by the state for the differential cost to be provided. We're good to have up. And the grant money is not gonna last forever. I just don't know that at some point. It's gonna go away. And, structure needs to be in place. But the other issue is, I don't know if you're all aware of this, in the legislation last year, the state aid reimbursement for electric buses extended out over 12 years. So if you buy an electric bus, first over 12 years, currently for diesel gas, it's over 5 years. For old guys like me, you probably remember it used to be the following year, you got your. We've stretched it out over the years. And certainly, we're talking next week with governor's office about that, because that certainly is a barrier to getting electric buses. I know we always talk about the legislative agenda in February. I think January you got a meeting scheduled. It's really important now that you start talking to legislators. Basically anybody can listen, because the concern is all across the state that this is the funding piece is a big problem. We're planning on some numbers, just a normal replacement. We're looking at maybe 1.5 billion a year net increase. It's just not doing it. Capitalism, for the most part, across the state, there's some school districts. Financing is a big piece, infrastructure. Mark talked about that. That is so specific to each school district, and the funding for that. Also, those pieces on the electric bus side are certainly important to know about it. On the bus driver shortage piece, probably more important, right? I would think more important than the electric bus. In your mind. We're doing a couple things. We're trying to get the retirement waiver extended beyond 2023. We've asked for a tax credit for $2,500 if you're a school bus driver. Trying to entice people to put their name down in education. That's the hard part, right? Getting them in the door. And just recently, we've been talking to others about waiving the fee for drivers. Application fee. And if you got any other ideas, let me know, because the issue is, how do we get them in the door? So much of that is just local. Like, what are you doing for pay, benefits, hours per day, all those kinds of things. Work requirements. I do hear electric buses. People tell me that improves the work requirement for drivers. Drivers like them. Kids required. And then probably, I've heard that from operators from out of state. We hope it's true. So, yeah, we've got a lot going on. I would encourage you to let me know, let Grim know if you got ideas about legislative issues. We're starting now to talk to the legislators, to the governor's office about our concerns. We're partnering with other associations on a lot of these issues. So hopefully there'll be some headway in some of these important things. Hear from you. You're the ones that make it happen. Hope you have.
Thanks, David. So just so we're won't have this meeting going on until 1 o'clock, we'll adjourn this part. Mark will take us on a field trip out to the buses.
Okay, all right, great. I'm gonna probably defer to John Hazelton and ask him where he wants to go. Just go through this way to the shop. Okay, all right.
So what they're doing.
After you.
I mean, if we drive it through Boston, okay?
Yeah.
It's in position. Take a closer look.
Yep.
Right here. So. This is not. Problem that final it's a wonderful cell.
We're gonna do wash bay, wash our buses to make sure they're clean. And then we brought this to the kids.
Sorry.
Roger, full of information. He's trains everybody. He's the expert.
Yeah, he's come. I'm just videotaping for anybody that can't be here.
It's really good. It's nice of you.
Everything's transition.
And he said,
How do we fix it?
Yeah. Yeah,